And away we go.
Boom! It's the Zocalo. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to 2020. And we're off to a stellar start for this year on a grand scale, if you will. And boy, am I glad we're back doing the Zocalo because I need to take my mind off of things just for a little bit.
Are we off to a good start? I think I'm off to a decent start. Are you off to a good start?
2020's been weird, man. I'm not sure what to think about it. It's been a little rough. But you know what? That's okay because onward and upward, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You know, I would like to make one small toast because at the beginning of this year, 2 days ago, so it would be January 10th, I believe it was. The progressive rock and rock and roll community and pop culture community at large lost probably one of their greatest poet laureates, if you will, and that was Neil Peart. Neil was the drummer for Rush and head lyricist, and his contributions to my life are innumerable. Is that a word? That's a word, right?
Of course
Innumerable?
it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it is now. So I wanted to jump into the VOL.11 early.
Sounds good.
And toast to Neil Peart, 67 years old.
May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. VOL.11.
VOL.11. Yes, this was a very important person to you, as well as many other people who've been influenced by his music.
You know, I forgot to tell you the really, really, really short story about like when my brother texted me this news, because he texted me the news. My brother is a professional session drummer in Nashville.
Okay.
And he picked up the drums. He's been doing it for, oh my gosh, probably over 20 years now.
Wow.
And he picked up the drums when I stopped playing the drums when I went to college. He was in high school. And he took my old drum set out of the barn and started playing with his band in high school. And then pretty much everything kind of took off from there. But I started playing the drums because one of my really good friends from high school wanted to start a band. He needed a drummer. He was a guitarist. There was a drum set down in kind of like the common area. So we started playing together. And then he handed me this disc, and it was Rush Power Windows. This was it didn't come out that time, but it was 1987 when I first heard this album, and it just changed my universe forever. And I've been a Rush fan ever since.
Nice. And Rush has been around for a long time, since the 70s, right?
Late 60s, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
They
That's
started
a
off
long life.
They kind of started off as kind of a Led Zeppelin-ish type of sound.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, all the way from, you know, the great white north of Toronto. And then they started getting some really, I guess, local critical acclaim. But it wasn't until their song Working Man from their first album that really got off the charts, because there was a DJ in Cleveland, Ohio that was given Working Man to play by a secretary who listened to like all these samples. And she said, you got to play this song. And it really resonated with kind of like the blue collar, the blue collar workers in Cleveland. And it was about them, you know, Working Man.
The old Rust Belt.
Yeah.
A lot of working class people there. That makes sense.
Yeah. So Rush always gives great thanks, because when they were inducted in the Hall of Fame a few years ago, the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, is in Cleveland, Ohio, where their huge success kind of like took a different shift in the gears, you know, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So anyway, I just wanted to, it wouldn't be me if I didn't just share a little bit of that passion of mine with all of you.
That's cool. And thank you very much for sharing. That's awesome. And we tonight are going through script books, JMS's, All My Words. But we advertised that it was going to be Sleeping in Light, Volume 11, because that's the volume that you got me. Guess what, guys? Plot twist. That's not what we're doing tonight, because then we just had a little mix up. We're actually going for Volume 5, and I went through the script for Messages from Earth, marked it up. I've got notes galore. If you want to check this out. We got things to read and review.
That's super awesome. Old school. I love it.
Got some old school notes. Yeah, I'm doing it 90s style. There's just something in the new year. I really wanted to reconnect with a pen and paper and just slow my thoughts down. Because when you type, I can type about as fast as I think. I can go. I'm fast.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Oh
can
my
type about
gosh.
120 words a minute when I'm really getting down it. Yeah. Like I could compete with JMS. I'm well trained.
Wow. Look at
If I'm just
you.
casually typing about 80, pretty fast.
Wow. I can't do
That's
that.
why I'm going to get carpal tunnel in my
Oh.
future. Yeah. So anyway, I just really wanted to slow down, take however long it was going to take to write things down. And
Mhm.
there's something studies are showing that things just get imprinted into your brain better if you write them on a pen and paper as opposed to a screen.
Whoops. Sorry. That was a trigger happy me.
Oh no. So I wanted to put that to the test and just see if that really jogs my memory a little more.
Okay.
Now, since we advertised Sleeping in Light, however, before we get to Messages from Earth, I did go through and I read the script for Sleeping in Light. Did I ugly cry? Not yet, because I went really fast through it. But one thing I'd like to do is to kind of give us a primer for going
Okay.
through these script books.
All right.
Read the missing scene.
Oh.
The cut scene. It's not a missing scene. It's a cut scene from Sleeping in Light. I think one of the very few, if maybe the only one. This is the one that I spotted. You can see it in deleted scenes if you got the DVDs. So if you've seen that, this is not news. But if you're not aware of it, here's what the scene is. I will read it. This takes place when Ivanova gets her invite from Sheridan saying, hey, we need to have our last hurrah. She's in her office and she's bored to tears with her life.
Drag out the
setting
old war
stage.
horse. Yeah.
Right. And so she's talking with her publicist who says, you've got an itinerary, you finalized your schedule, blah, blah, blah. Ivanova is just like, cut the crap. I just unfinalized it. Now get out of my office. I have things to do. Because she got that invite, she's got to go to Minbar, right?
Yep.
Here's the missing scene. The publicist exits past the consternated aide as Ivanova picks up a piece of stationery and begins scribbling a note. Aide, Admiral Ivanova, if you don't mind me saying so, Ivanova, I do. Furthermore, Lieutenant, when I give an order, you will not question, debate, or challenge it. If we were in a combat situation, I'd have you shot. Since we're not, this is the best I can do. She rips off the sheet and hands it to him. Aide, what's this? Ivanova, you're transferred to latrine duty. Aide, latrine duty, but Ivanova, you're dismissed. The aide's mouth works, but nothing comes out. He turns on his heel and exits. As soon as he's gone, she closes her briefcase and picks up the message. Looks at it again, her expression softening. We linger on the folded parchment, featuring the Ranger's seal and her name.
Wow.
So this is a little bit of what you can come to expect from tonight as we break down Messages from Earth.
Okay. Wow.
Assuming I can read coherently.
Did they say in the book that was filmed, or it was deleted in script form?
It was filmed, but it was cut from the final cut.
Probably to make room for advertisements, tighten up the flow.
Probably just to make time. Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
And there's instances in Messages from Earth where that was certainly the case. There's some good stuff that did get cut, but we'll get there.
So how did we arrive on this? How did we arrive on this topic, Shar?
We were talking about it in the last recording we made at the very end of the year. And I think I maybe brought up that I did get a couple of these script books and I was going to go through them and just start studying them. And you said, I think you said, that's a great idea for a show. Will you do that? Just break one down. I said, oh, sure. How about Messages from Earth? And that was that.
Okay. Yep. And I wanted to kind of preface all this with that you're a writer and you're finding ways to try and inspire yourself to work on your own projects.
To get back into it. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I was an aspiring screenwriter when I was much younger, before I knew anything. And these days, no, I don't think I would necessarily want to be a screenwriter just because Hollywood is crazy. And I don't think that would really suit the kind of life I want to have. But is writing still satisfying? Absolutely. So I want to do it for my own pleasure, essentially. Yeah. And
then get an agent and then see if you can ship them around.
Well, I don't know. We'll see about that. All right, that's far off. I have a lot more training to do. As JMS says in Becoming Superman, I have to get through the crap before I get to the good stuff. I've got a lot of crap to shake off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like being on if you're a golfer or if you know golf references, it's like going on a driving range. People ask like, why do you like, blow through all those balls at a driving range? It's like, well, you got to like get all the crap out of your system too,
You do.
right? Before you
You
get
do.
on a live green. So,
There you go. That's essentially, I'm going to be on the driving range for, I would probably say, at least a solid year before anything else potentially happens at all. Let's just see where that goes.
I think that a lot of this type of craft work, it doesn't happen overnight unless you're, a prodigy or a virtuoso. I mean, it takes time. You have to put the work in.
Absolutely.
Right. And you have to go through all of the gamut and the range of emotions while you're working. You either have to say, this is great, this sucks, this is crap,
right.
this is great, but then someone else says, no, that sucks, this is crap. But
right.
all of that gets massaged into something that's really great. And it's just like anything else. It's like trying to diet or work out or become good at anything. You have to put the work in.
Right. Yeah. It's like starting any other skill. You're not going to start off in a great place. You're going to suck at it. Probably the first few times at the very least. But if you see just even the slightest improvement on your 5th time as opposed to your 1st time, that can be enough fuel to keep you going so that when you get to your 10th time, you're better than the 5th and so on. And you might reach a point where you realize, you know what? I'm capable. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm getting better and I'm going to continue getting better.
As a Babylon 5 fan, looking through this book, and of course now knowing that you've understood the way that JMS writes or what he went through during his writing process, when you flip through this book and you flip through the scripts, what did you want to find when you were doing this? Was there something that you wanted to unlock? Was there like some type of key that you're looking for to unlock something in yourself?
Maybe. Let me say what I did find, and maybe that will help me answer that question, because what I'm really looking for in the scripts is not just how he breaks it down, like, okay, internal shot, external shot, how he's telling the story. It's Joe's style. And in this format in particular, because the way you write a novel is different, how you write a script is different, how you write poetry, yada, yada. It can still be you, but it's like, a different key, if you will. If you're thinking music, it might be the key of A, it might be G. It's just, when you get more talented, you have greater range. And so I wanted to really dissect just Joe's voice through these characters, through the way he's telling the story of the script, because that was definitely a revelation of just how much storytelling goes through the script itself. Mm-hmm. Had you never seen it and you were just reading the words, reading the script, it's a very concise story. You see how it's going to break down, how it's going to unfold. It's seriously cool. And one thing I did notice from Joe's style, at least in this particular script, was he writes the way he wants the characters to talk.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Meaning his sentences aren't necessarily grammatically correct. He's going to put in a comma where he wants a pause and stuff like that. So that's kind of telling me in my head, I don't know if that's something every writer does, but I like that. And I'm probably going to steal that when I write my own stuff.
Because he's writing the screenplay, not necessarily prose or poetry or
right. And you're not writing a school essay, so it doesn't have to be grammatically correct. So if you're conveying how you want things expressed, the emotion, the delivery, what have you, that makes a lot of sense. And so I can see why he's using that, and that's why I want to use it.
I just want to let everyone know that in the show notes, I put a link where you can go to at least the US Amazon page, and that link takes you to all of his volumes because there are a lot of them. So this
11.
Isn't just one book.
No, there's 11 separate volumes going through all 92 of his Babylon 5 scripts. So just about all of them, just about every single one that he wrote, you can get access to through all the seasons. And so I have 2 now. You gave me one, my sister gave me the other.
Oh, fantastic.
And there'll be more to come because these are incredibly fascinating. They are, it's a lot of fun going through these because the final cut of the episode. I mean, if you're a fan, if you're watching this, you've seen all the episodes probably a gazillion times, just like we have. And so when you come across something that maybe didn't make it into the final cut, a cutscene, something that just was edited for time, probably, and you realize, oh, they might have shot that, but you've never seen it, and it's like a little, I don't know, it's like a little nugget, it's a little prize.
Well,
it's fun.
The more that JMS releases his scripts and things like Becoming Superman and seeing more of his backstory and like the interviews now that are on YouTube, we're getting more access now at a completely different level or series of levels that help us understand who he is as a writer, how he wrote things, and how he got to the position that he's in right now as a writer. You know, all the different processes and obviously all the different struggles and successes that he's had. But the interesting thing for me about the Messages from Earth volume is that Messages from Earth doesn't come at the very end. Like, you know, these don't fall into sequential order, do they?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, they're going in order as you go through each volume, if that's what you are saying.
The Messages from Earth is which volume, though?
5.
Volume 5. Okay.
Yeah. So it's right in the middle in season 3 where it belongs.
See, this is where I got confused. And this is like when I was doing my notes, I thought that I got you Sleeping in Light and I got you Messages from Earth. I did.
Dude, so you got me Sleeping in Light, which is volume 11, the dead end that goes through that.
Oh, that and the Lost Tales and all the yeah. Okay.
Yes, the very hind end. That's what we get.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, there you go.
All
yeah,
right.
Hence the confusion. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this and all of that.
I'm still confused.
It's okay. Confused. Keep drinking that Brevari, buddy.
Yeah, well, I have a lot on my plate. I have a lot on my mind.
You do? Oh my gosh. We need to talk about that because I'm co-hosting with somebody who's just elevated quite a bit on the podcasting fame spectrum there because, well, why don't you tell everybody what you're now embarking on?
Okay. I feel like...
no, you should tell everybody.
So I have had the great fortune of being chosen as the co-host for Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, which has been consistently on the air for the Roddenberry Podcast Network for the last 7.5 years. Ken Ray, who is or was the current or former co-host, I'm trying to get my English right there.
Former.
He has moved on to his own projects, and for the last, I would say, maybe 2.5, maybe 3 months, there have been series and rounds and rounds and rounds of auditions that John and Rod and the rest of the team over there at the Roddenberry Podcast Network have been sifting through to try and find the right fit and the right dynamic with John and the right level of comfort for the entire network for that person who's going to inherit that 7.5-year legacy of Mission Log. And I have had the great fortune of being that person that they chose.
So congratulations, because that's a big deal. Those of us who have been in podcasting, if you're a Star Trek fan and you listen to podcasts, you know that Mission Log is, if it's not the biggest Star Trek podcast out there, it's right at the top.
I mean, it has a lot of visibility. It has a lot of subscribers. It does have the Roddenberry name, which obviously gives it a lot of gravitas in the especially in the Star Trek podcast community for sure.
Definitely.
But if you've listened to Mission Log, and I have, and you have, and a lot of people in the Star Trek community have, it has a very strong format. It's very tightly put together. They have a great team of editors and marketers and social media pushers and stuff like that all work behind it, because I guess it is the flagship show for that network, aside from all the other shows they have, which are, I believe, 8 shows now.
Oh, gosh. I do not know. I don't listen to every single one of them, but they have grown quite a bit in the last couple of years, but they make sure that they bring on shows that have integrity to them.
Mm-hmm.
They curate a good quality and diverse selection of podcasts. So yeah, they do very good work at Roddenberry. I think in part because it is the name, they've got to have that credibility attached. So they make sure that they're producing good stuff.
Well, that's the one thing that was a little intimidating to me when it came to accepting the offer, because, well, not necessarily the offer to do it, but it was the offer to audition for it. Because John reached out to me and he said, "Would you like to audition for it? You will be auditioning with several others." But John and I have worked in the past before on Trek FM, where you and I used to be hosts of our own shows, Warp 5, and you were doing To the Journey with Tristan. Right. And when we left, we went on to different projects. And I guess I've come full circle again, because I didn't think I'd be coming back to doing Star Trek. But that was one of the things that John wanted, was he didn't really want, quote unquote, a super fan. He wanted more of kind of like a critical and analytical thinker. I'm not sure. I mean,
that's what the show needs, though. And you're a very good critical thinker.
Thank you.
You are. I mean, the way that we've talked about Babylon 5 over the years, if you can do half of that for Mission Log, you're going to knock it out of the park.
Well, there's going to be one of those days where we're going to do our Babylon 5 Deep Space Nine crossover.
Oh,
I'm
my.
telling you, it's going to happen. Oh, my. That's going to happen.
That's going to be great, though.
You know, Shar, what it really was I put on my George impersonation, and
wow,
it kind of sold them. So.
I didn't know you could do Takei like that. Dang.
It's one of my best kept secrets. So I listen to him a lot on Howard Stern. So
Howard Stern. Love it.
Yeah. I can do a better Takei than I can do a Malaria any day of the week. Any day of the week. That's not saying much. Anyway,
well, there's no Italian in Takei.
True enough. But I'm very flattered. I'm very excited, and there's a lot of work ahead. But and I posted this on the Zocalo thread on Twitter, that this podcast or this live stream isn't going anywhere. This is where our heart lies. This is the calling of our heart. It
really is.
Right here.
Yeah, this is Ranger training camp right here, baby.
That's right. So
we live for the one.
This is our passion project, Char's and mine, and we will be continuing doing this, for as long as we can do it, until.
That's right. Yeah, until and unless life changes to the point where we can't see us doing it anymore. But I feel like that's a long way off, and we don't even need to worry about that.
True enough. We have Daniel Keller with us, and we have Terrell Colorado with us.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
And because we can see the viewer count, we can see that there are other people that are listening. So if you feel comfortable to post, please post, so we can bring you into the community.
That's right. Say hello. We don't bite too much.
Yeah, we don't bite hard.
That's not what I heard.
Oh.
As Veer said. Yeah, well, shall we get into messages from Earth?
Yes, because I want to see, we got to get through all of your copious Post-it notes in your book. Are those in order? Are those in a particular order?
They are in an order. Yeah, they had to be, just because there were so many of them. And also, side note, I really debated whether or not I wanted to write in the book itself. I know. I didn't know if that would give it character or if it would be sacrilegious.
I don't know. I mean, so I think it'd be in character. It's your book.
So
it's your book.
Thank you, Captain Kirk. But I opted for not this time. Now, I might change my mind going in the future as I study this. It might just be easier. But for tonight, I've got my notes. So let's start with some of the broader strokes.
We'll start at the very beginning.
Before we get into the minutia. So overall, it's no surprise that Joe's writing is pretty tight. It's very clean. Pretty much, I would say 98% of what we saw on screen is in this script, and there's only just the slightest little bits of things that were cut or removed or whatever. I don't know if they shot some of the things that were cut and they got chopped on the floor, or if they just didn't shoot them. But there's very little fat to trim. There's very little changes overall, which was something that Joe did pride himself on. And reading his work just kind of really helps me appreciate that more and more, just knowing that on other shows that is not the case. So if I were working on Babylon 5, I would be super grateful that somebody had their act together enough to make that happen. I
mean, do you suppose that his economy of writing and his speed is because he didn't really have a lot of time? He had to make his deadlines, and he just didn't have time to F around, and he had to put it on paper?
I think that's one of the big reasons, is the fact that by the time we're in season 3, he's writing every single script. He has no time to F around. He has got to get this right pretty much from the get-go because he's got things to do. But then also, he had this time to break down this incredible idea he had in his head. And so he kind of knows. It's sort of like paint by numbers. When you know what you have to do, start to finish, your end goal is you just kind of go at that point.
And he also has the luxury of having that all here, so he doesn't really have to make notes on other people's scripts. He doesn't have to read or edit anyone else's scripts if they come from a
Right.
script writing
So,
pool.
yeah, that was one of the luxuries, I suppose, for him of doing it all himself was the fact that he didn't have time to explain what needed to happen in each script to some freelancer. So
Right.
he could just take it from his brain, plug it into the document, and then publish it, and it's done. Good to go. Next.
Unbelievable.
Really,
good.
it is. It
Yeah.
really is. Especially when you've seen now other shows with a serialized format sometimes do a great job and then other times totally drop the ball.
Yeah, you can totally tell where there's a tonal shift in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
Not even so much directors, because he had different directors obviously do different things.
Sure.
But when you have the script and the dialogue and the tone of all the characters completely nailed down, it's really easy for the director to be able to say, okay, do this, because they're really just directing the scene, as opposed to giving them notes of how to mold the character. The character's already done.
Right.
Right. So to speak. And unless there are notes in your studies that have proven otherwise.
No.
Okay. So it's that tight.
No,
So it's that sharp and that tight.
Seriously, yeah. Certainly by this point of Babylon 5, everything is a well-oiled machine. It's going incredibly well. One of the fun things about reading these scripts is a lot of times when you know an episode inside and out, you can just have the scene play in your head. You feel it, you see it. Mm-hmm. And then when you come across something that is unfamiliar, that nugget, you focus on that. And it's like almost reliving it in a completely different way. Like you see this extra dimension of this story you thought you knew so well. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of fun. It's a little treat. So let's get into some of that.
Excellent.
Okay, so Messages from Earth. Script was completed August 16th, 1995, aired on February 19th, 1996, to give you some sort of idea about production time. One thing that you notice just right off the get-go is in the script, you're getting things like music cues. You're getting a visualization of exterior shots, interior shots. He's got to set up the scene, right? Sort of like when you're telling a story, you just don't go straight to the dialogue. No, you've got to set the stage and the mood and what's going on. What's the environment like? And so you're going to get that in the scripts. We're going to go right to something that either was cut, and I don't know if they shot it or not, but it did not make it into the final thing. On page 1, there's missing dialogue. Shall I read some?
Please do.
Okay, because it's kind of fun, and I think everybody's going to appreciate this because we all know about Rebo and Zooty.
Zoot, zoot.
Zooty, zoot! So here we go. We're in the mess hall, right? Garibaldi's complaining, I've eaten the same thing for 3 years. SUAEI. You know how Ivanova is in that scene?
Mm-hmm.
In the script, she is not initially in that scene. She's not sitting at the table when that's going on. It's just Sheridan and Garibaldi having that conversation.
Ah.
Ivanova, meanwhile, she is kind of off to the side talking with Zach Allen. And so here we go with the script. Zach, you were right. Eep, eep. Ivanova finishing it. Zooty, zoot. They both laugh, and Ivanova continues on her way to the table. Sheridan notes this. Ivanova, morning, Captain. Chief. Garibaldi, Commander. Sheridan, eep, eep, zooty, zoot. What the hell is eep, eep, zooty, zoot? Ivanova says, what, you didn't see it? I thought everyone saw it. Sheridan says, saw what? Ivanova, the Johnny Devo show on Triple V. They've been promoting it all week, and he came out last night and he did this incredible routine. Everything's falling, blowing up, and after all this craziness, he just looks at the camera, throws up his arms, and says, eep, eep, zooty, zoot. It was hysterical. I can't believe you didn't see it. Sheridan says, who has the time to watch? And Ivanova says, but that's the biggest thing he's ever done. The network's been flogging it for weeks. Michael, please tell me you saw it at the very least. And no, and that's when the chef comes in with bacon and eggs.
No way.
Isn't that cool? Now I want to see that scene.
That's so cool.
And wow. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the origin of Zooty Zoot.
May have been, because I don't remember Zoot Zoot being referenced.
Yeah, because, season 4, we get Zoot Zoot, Sheridan.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this is season 3.
That reminds me of when Londo said, Zoot, Zoot.
Right. But then later he's, oh, you'll have to come to my inauguration. I'll always remember you. Zoot, zoot.
Wow, that's mind blowing because
So isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. But I can
So much
understand
fun.
maybe why they may have done that, because they wanted to focus on Ivanova's embarrassment in front of the two, in front of Garibaldi and Sheridan, when they revealed the bacon and eggs from Marcus. They're like, oh, I did him a favor.
And
Wasn't that
it's
kind of
not like
favor?
that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, isn't that kind of cool though? I mean, I really do wonder now, did they shoot that scene and then reshoot it so that she is seated at the table, or was that a change that they made?
And there's no note in the script writing book about that.
No, you don't get notes on the script. It's
Okay.
just the script. So
You know what? He's
it's
really
left to
good
conjecture unless somebody out there can confirm or deny.
Joe's really good at answering these kind of questions on Twitter. He does specific question answering all the time.
Val too.
Val too. I say ask him. Besides, okay, so for all the listeners out there that are watching or will watch, Messages from Earth is season 3, episode what, like 6 or 7?
No.
Does it say in the script?
Was it 9? No.
Okay. I know it was in like the first. It was like in the first half of the season.
Yeah. Ah, gosh. It was midway though. It was almost like because Severed Dreams was almost like a mid-season finale in some ways, but it wasn't, you know?
That would have made like Severed Dreams like 11 or 12. Right? 20.
Okay, we're looking this up. Bad podcasting form. Sorry.
Ah, it's great podcasting form. It's organic.
Right? I hate it when people type and they're on a recording.
Yeah, but we're not editing.
Right? It's true. We can't. That's why. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So Messages from Earth, IMDb, help me out here.
Meanwhile, while you're doing that, I will answer some questions.
Please.
So let's see. Terry Lynn, Colorado. Norm, do tell. I've told, but I can tell. Congrats on that, Norm. Thanks, brother. Terry says, Shar, you should write in the book if it does not distract you when reading it. She also says, I think that Joe, he had to hurry to write it when possible. Season 4 would be the last season because this was the final, no matter if renewed or not. We're talking about, I believe that would have been Sleeping in Light.
Yes. So it's episode, no, never mind. Oh my God. It's episode 8. Okay.
Episode 8.
Yes.
What
Sorry,
did I say?
I had to read it twice.
Did I say 8 or 9?
It says 8.
Oh, so close.
Very close. Very, very close.
All right.
So, okay. The next big thing, this is maybe the biggest thing that's different in the script as opposed to the finished product, is Dr. Kirkish is not Dr. Kirkish. Her name is Karen Lee in this script.
Karen Lee.
Dr. Karen Lee. Now, there's nothing wrong with that name, but when I saw it, it just, who?
Kirkish?
You know, because I think because I'm so used to Dr. Kirkish. She's Dr. Kirkish, dang it.
Yeah. That's why.
Dr. Lee, just, not quite the same, is it?
No, I mean, that's a pretty significant name change. It's not like.
Right.
You know,
which makes me wonder why.
It's like Dr. Kirkland or Dr.
Right.
Kierkegaard, you know.
No. So why that change, I wonder?
Maybe there was a real actual doctor by that name.
That's a very possible thing. They've got to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So that could have been it.
So
gosh,
yeah,
I wish we had somebody who was behind the scenes, like John Iacobelli or something, who could answer these questions.
This would be the other Terry.
Oh, that's true. We do have Terry. He can chime in. He'll let us know.
You know what? We can add some of these questions because he follows our feed on Twitter at Zocalo Livecast, and he might be able to answer some of those. So.
Okay, cool. Well, let's hit him up, see what he can offer and impart some knowledge. Okay. So an example of trimming some fat off of scripts that makes perfect sense to me as I was reading it. Page 11, they're in the conference room and Dr. Kirkish is about to tell everybody what she knows about uncovering the shadow ships on Mars. Sheridan starts off that scene saying, "Oh, can we get you anything?" And Dr. Kirkish says, "No, this is really hard for me. Can we just get this over with, please?" Mm-hmm. We don't need that.
Right.
In terms of really, though, like trimming fat, it's stuff like that, not necessarily whole scenes or even parts of a scene like on page 1 with Ivanova and Zoot Zoot. It's just really little things that were probably shot, probably to kind of set the mood a little bit, get everybody settled in a little bit, but then chopped because time and not necessary.
But I also think that in taking out that particular line of dialogue or that exchange, it removes the pleasantries of the situation and jumps right into the immediacy of why
Right.
she's there. It's like, I don't got time to F around. I got to tell you what I saw. I got to get out. People are coming after me.
Right. She's in danger. They don't have time to waste. And as an audience, we don't need the niceties. We just need to go.
Right. But it also puts you on edge. You're like, what? You know, there's no time to kind of like ease into it. She's there and everyone's on edge and she needs to just deliver her information.
Right. Right. So, okay, that was the next thing. Dr. Kirkish, Sheridan, blah, blah, blah. Da, 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 da.
Sheridan, blah, blah, blah.
No,
blah, blah, blah. TOS reference, people. TOS reference.
I'm not exactly sure why I bookmarked that, so we'll move on.
What was it, out of curiosity?
I don't know why I bookmarked. It was just a piece of dialogue with Sheridan when he's saying, "This is my decision and mine alone." Or no, it's even before that. It's I need to think about this. Delenn, stay with me.
Okay.
But I don't know why. That's not different from the show. I don't know why I did that.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, there is a little tiny chunk of something with Ivanova and Londo that got cut, if you want to hear this.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just shows that, hey, there is some continuity on the station, just little random things happening here and there. People are privy to the fact that Sheridan is gone. That's what this whole thing illustrates, but I can see why it was cut. So, Corwin, they're in CNC, the observation dome. He says, Commander. Ivanova says, yes. Corwin says, Ambassador Malari is on the link. Ivanova, put him through. Londo appears on the nearest monitor. She goes toward it. Londo, Commander Ivanova, good morning. I was wondering if perhaps you could tell me where the captain is. I've left several messages for him. Ivanova says, I'm afraid he's busy in meetings all day. Perhaps I can help you? Londo says, perhaps you can at that. And she smiles, friendly as best as she can. Cut scene. Just to show that people are noticing that he is missing.
Mm-hmm.
But do we need that? Nah.
Now that was, if you had time, yeah, but there was so much exposition in this episode, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
so we really don't need a lot of that.
And I think at this stage, though, Londo was beyond the point in his career and his influence on the station to be kind of like a nosy busybody.
Yeah, you know, now season 1 Londo would be all up in everybody's business.
Yeah.
But by season 3, he's backed off a little bit because people don't trust him the same.
Exactly. So obviously there would be less people trying to help him, but he would be less interested in station affairs unless it had to do something with either revealing that he was part of the Shadow Alliance, or if Morden was looking for him, or if G'Kar was coming after him.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the narrative for things like the CGI cues are noted in the script, and that's really cool when you're kind of playing out scenes like when Dr. Kirkish is recounting the unveiling or the digging out of the shadow ship, going between her dialogue and the CGI and whatnot. It all unfolds and really illustrates the vision JMS had for those folks who are going to be rendering that CGI, which is kind of cool.
Does it give you, in terms of minutes, how long he wanted that sequence, what the sequence was composed of, or it's probably something they talked about with Optic Nerve?
It's probably, in the script, I'm sure they probably had that discussion just because they didn't want to take up more time than they needed to. But no, really what he's going for is visually what he sees, what he wants to see on the screen.
Okay.
So it's not in incredible detail, but it's enough to where you can put that picture in your head, and then they know at this point certainly what he's looking for. I figure that's enough to help them do their job effectively and get it right.
What the neat thing was Garibaldi says that he could corroborate her story because he was there at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
So he thought that something was that was strange, was like an IPX related incident, but she said, I love the scene where she just described the scream of the shadows. Right.
Yeah. And the way they go to a flashback and it's sepia toned. And yeah, it makes me wonder though, because some flashbacks in Babylon 5 go to black and white, others are sepia tone, kind of like this. And I wonder, why? Why did they change that? I wonder if there's any reason at all.
Maybe it's because it's just stylistic. It's a stylistic thing,
And I mean, she's on Mars, so maybe that orange tint. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like nice and dusty and.
Yeah, indeed. So that was kind of a cool thing I noticed too. And it really helps with just the storytelling, helps the story unfold in your head. You remember how that looked and it helps you play out. One little thing, and I don't know how common this is in scripts, but there is an instance where Marcus is referred to by Jason, Jason Carter, the actor.
Oh, okay.
And that's not done interchangeably. It's only done once. So I don't know if it's a mistake or if this is something that occasionally happens on scripts.
And how is it? What is the context of that?
Let me find it. It's in the earlier scenes where he's trying to escort Dr. Kirkish or Karen Lee to.
Well, it's probably just an oversight.
Babylon 5.
Joe's just like, who is this? Who's doing this line? Jason instead of Marcus.
Yeah, well, and I figure he's writing so dang fast. He doesn't have time to really go through and dot every I, cross the T's, blah, 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 look for typos and everything. Although, to his credit, I didn't catch any typos. But I did see this little mix-up, if it's in fact a mix-up. And it might not. Let's see. Let's get to... We don't need to go to down below. Oh, shoot.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to read one of Terry's comments here.
Do it, please.
So she says that, you're right, Char. It makes a better impact when the bad guys notice that Sheridan is missing.
That's right, because then it kind of ties back to Night Watch noticing, hey, where's the captain been?
And she also says the lack of detail for CGI, one, does make the CGI creation take a long time, and two, it does allow the CGI designers to get creative. True enough, I think the one thing that maybe just an overarching note that JMS wanted to put there was he wanted to make sure there was the story of the shadow ship digging out the other shadow ship after it was after it absorbed that person's life energy to restart its engines because it was dormant that entire time on Mars.
True, yeah.
Until that IPX person touched it and it was just like, oh God, here, life energy. And now
and then it merges and controls the ship.
Had enough time to send out a distress beacon.
Right.
It's crazy good.
Okay, so I found this. It is internal, down below. And we come in right smack in the middle of a fight with Jason at the center of it, wielding the Minbari fighting pike and surrounded by 4 to 6 humans. We see that he's keeping them at bay, away from a woman behind him, edging them toward a side hallway. Call her Karen Lee. There it is.
Call her Karen Lee.
And it's all in all caps. Now, that's, I think, is a script formatting thing. But even so, very noticeable just because that's not her name in the final cut.
Interesting. That is so interesting. I think we all need to send Joe a tweet.
Everybody should tweet Joe.
Karen, was Karen with a K or Karen with a C?
K.
Like,
yeah, she was a Karen. Oh,
like,
Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
God, Karen, get off Facebook, Karen.
Yeah. Oh, Karen Lee, Lee?
Leigh.
Okay, so
more like Lay.
Like Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah, only pronounced Lee.
Lee. Interesting. I don't know this off the top of my head because now that person you said that was Jason. Was that the name of the actress who played Dr. Kirkish?
Ooh. Was it? Maybe that's it. But then I don't think that's a very common thing.
I'm just saying that maybe he did that. Maybe he just, like I said, he threw Jason in there instead of Marcus.
Right. I didn't even think about that, Norm.
Terry Lynn, Daniel, anyone else out there who's watching? What do you think?
Yeah. Who is the actress who plays Dr. Kirkish? Nancy Stafford. Okay. Theory defeated.
Very defeated. So there you go. We don't know. Right?
That was just her name at first. And for whatever reason, it got changed. Maybe it was in tribute to somebody. I don't know.
It could. What if, because this is a script, what if it was the actress that they wanted to get and couldn't get?
Possible.
So we need to obviously text Joe and say, like, what's up with this Karen
Like,
Lee.
I want to know everything. Can you break this down in several paragraphs?
Yeah, I want you to go all the way back to like 1995, 6.
Yeah.
And,
And I'm sure you remember every detail. Yeah.
He probably does. This is Joe.
Well, but this is Joe, and he has an amazing memory, but that's
Right.
still asking a lot out of the poor guy.
It's your job, listeners, to do this.
Yes. Oh, one of my favorite little changes happens in the White Star when Sheridan and Delenn are en route to Earth space, and we've got the scene with rain hitting the roof, and he's telling Delenn about his dad, right, spraying the garden hose and making it rain. Well, initially, you know how he says that he was preparing for his final test for the academy, and he knew that if he didn't get some sleep, he wouldn't pass.
Right.
Well, in the script, it says college, not the academy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was always in my head. I mean, Sheridan's career Earth Force, as far as I understand, he didn't go to a university or anything. He just went straight into Earth Force training, like you would the military here, the Army, Navy, whatever.
Yeah, I always thought he was kind of like on the whole kind of officer track. So he would have done his graduate, then after that he would have gone right into the military, or he would have gone to like a West Point or an Annapolis, something like that.
Yeah, but I found that incredibly interesting where he specified that maybe just a little bit later. Or is it possible that maybe Bruce saw that line and said, oh, wouldn't Sheridan say this?
Yeah, I think that the academy it gives a little bit more clout to his kind of like his officer's track.
It's more specific to his training. Yeah.
And Terry Liz says, that's a great note, the academy is college for the military, which is
right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like Joe is wrong saying college, but it gives a different connotation. It's like going to USC as opposed to West Point.
True. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my response.
Okay. That's how I answer a lot of things. It's just I meow. It's just meow. Yes, I meow randomly on many occasions because that's my form of gibberish.
Yeah.
Meow.
I like that. Okay.
Another little piece of dialogue that got changed happens between Ivanova and Marcus. You know, that conversation where Ivanova is saying, look, how do you fit into here, Marcus? I don't know how to relate to you. And you know how Marcus says left, right, in a box by the door? That's not in this script.
Was that ad-libbed?
I don't know, but this is what he says in the script. Marcus says, I'm as rank as anyone here and equally sure that's not the problem. So what is? Now, I have to imagine that Joe looked at that fairly generic dialogue and said, that's not good enough for Marcus.
He's going to make
it. He went way more creative later on and punched it up a little bit.
I have to believe that was probably Jason working at that because he knew the character by now. And Marcus was such a wise ass, right?
Right. It's not sarcastic enough. It needs more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he said that, he was just kind of like poking fun at her. It's like, what do you mean? How do I fit in? What does that matter? You know, the point is I'm here. Like, why does everything in your world has to have rank and structure and has to file in line? Like, I don't do that. That's not my job.
He's the opposite of that.
Yeah. So she can't categorize him where categorization is so important to her. She needs to know who to work with, who answers to her. Much like when you're talking about in Sleeping in Light, when you said, if you're on the battlefield and you disobeyed direct command, you know, I would shoot you. You know, that's not hyperbole. No, Ivana would have shot you. Right. Or unless she would have at least very much given you a flesh wound. You know, but with Marcus, and why she's so frustrated with him is the whole reason why she fell in love with him is because she couldn't put him in a box.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. That irked her so bad.
Yeah.
Which is why they were kind of good for each other. And at the same time, you know, if they'd actually gotten into a real life relationship, it would have ruined them both.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The more I think about it, and because I did ship them back in the day, the more I think about those two, the less I think they would have had a successful relationship. They would have just been really on again and off again and fighting. Although, I got to say, that makeup sex had to have been really hot. But that's my fanfic brain talking.
Okay. Well, I mean, Marcus, I believe, is a true romantic. He would have stretched that courtship out, I think.
He would have given her the world, but there is no way she would really have appreciated it in the time.
Not in that time, no.
Which is why it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
She was not ready or interested. At that time, she had cut off her heart. She didn't speak anymore at that point.
That's a good topic of conversation for a show.
It is. And you know what? Valentine's Day is coming up soon-ish. So let's schedule that, huh?
Put a pin in that one.
All right.
We're there. All right.
Speaking of Ivanova and Marcus, a little extra dialogue that got cut, and you can kind of tell that this did get edited in the final product. So here's what's missing is later on in that conversation, Ivanova has kind of her outburst like, hey, because we shouldn't have to be doing this. We got no business being on that ship without me and blah, blah, blah. And I have no one else to blame, damn it. So here's what happens after that. She turns from Marcus, landing on the desk. He comes up behind her, starts to extend a hand, and Ivanova says, just leave me alone. He pulls back and moves toward the door. And he gets to the doorway, or as he gets to the doorway, he stops and Ivanova quietly says, it's time. They should almost be there by now. She glances over at him and he nods. Now, it's a very small thing. Definitely a gesture, though. And you can tell that it was cut. There was a cut there.
Yeah, but that goes to your point where he's trying to do the whole, again, the long-term courtship and extend his shoulder to either lean on or cry on or anywhere in between. And she's just like, no, bam.
Can't. Yeah. Cut off. Doors closed.
You know what? That reminds me of when Lottie was talking about, how she was raised in the military. And I felt that was very Ivanova-esque, where she says, yes, sir, no, sir, nothing in between. Now, I felt that was a line that Ivanova would have used somewhere along the line.
Very possible. Yeah.
Because that's who she was. Like after her father died, it was all emotional connection was pretty much severed. She didn't really want to connect with anyone except for Talia. And then that got screwed up.
Right. I mean, is it any wonder she cut herself off emotionally? She'd been hurt a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Lockley is just, I would say, just a more, I don't know, stringent, dutiful version. And hardline, yes, no. Yeah. Taking sides. Whereas Ivanova could muddle it up a little bit. I mean, she was part of the resistance.
I just loved it when I heard Tracy say that, and I'm like, I can hear Claudia saying that. Anyway, that's just me.
Okay. So one last big thing that did get changed. And in terms of big, this is not that big, but it's a small-ish change, but big for this script. When the White Star is around Jupiter and they're trying to escape, first the shadow ship. They manage to destroy that, gets it sucked into Jupiter. And then the Agamemnon comes along. And they're trying to get out of that. How are they going to get out of this situation without firing on the ship? Because at this point, Sheridan refuses to fire on his ship.
Right.
It is initially Sheridan's idea to open the jump point to hyperspace in the atmosphere. In the final version, it's Delen's because she, in this scene, in the script, is not really doing a whole lot. So I'm glad they gave her that little thing to do. And it's all Sheridan here. It's Lanier arguing with Sheridan, and Delen, her line after Sheridan proposes it and says, like, hey, yeah, we're going to do this. She says, why is nothing ever easy with you? And Sheridan replies, call it a lifestyle. That's how they end that part of the scene.
I think that kind of also exonerates Sheridan from doing any harm to the Agamemnon because he doesn't want to.
Yes. But I love the fact that in the final cut, it is Delen's idea. Otherwise, she's just kind of standing there like, oh, gee, what do we do? Well, Delen's better than that.
Yeah. And she also has the tactical knowledge, and their partnership is starting to develop a little bit more.
Especially in this episode, and they need to be working together. And so that illustrates that.
Yeah. So it really meets a lot of different expectations where, obviously Sheridan's the one that makes sure that nothing happens to the Agamemnon. That's his ship. That's his crew. He trained them. He's still emotionally connected to them. And Delenn doesn't want to put him in that situation. So her idea was great. He gets the problem out of Sheridan's control into her control, and she was able to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that is that's the big majority of my notes that I've got. There are little tiny other things that maybe get changed around. Maybe I don't think the cast really had that much of a chance to improvise their lines too much, but maybe they say something just a little different than how it's illustrated in the script, but really neither here nor there in the grand scheme of things. Those are the big things that I found. And you know what? Going through one big script like that just makes me think of how many other little secrets to unlock are just in this volume alone. And I've got 2 of them to work with for now.
How many pages in total was the script itself?
If I recall correctly, about 47.
Okay. It's almost like kind of like
just about a minute per page.
Yeah. Yeah, with breaks and stuff. Now, are there any supplemental notes that follow, either like a foreword or a preface or nothing like that?
No.
So this is just straight
up story.
Now, these came from B5 Books, right? They originally were... Okay, so they were like all assembled and organized and collated and printed by B5 Books.
Yes.
And
now I think in previous versions, there might have been more notes or something from Joe through B5 Books, but on the Amazon version, you're just getting the scripts straight up.
And how many pages is a single volume? It's fairly robust, right?
I mean, it's pretty thick.
Yeah.
That's just one volume. How many pages total here? What do we got?
And there are 11 of them.
Right. Oh, hard to tell because they're going by scripts. So I can't tell you.
So there are about 5 or 6 total scripts in there. So it's probably around roughly 200 pages.
Yeah, that's a reasonable estimate.
Yeah.
A bit. Good reading.
Terry says, it seems like Marcus and Ivanova are like Black Widow spiders. The male must be careful and watches her like a hawk. Or like a Black Widow spider.
Watching over her like a hawk, maybe. Yeah. Yes.
And she says, did either of you recently read the Lurkers notes? Recently? Not recently, no.
Not recently, no.
Yeah, I've been on the B5 Lurkers page before, but not recently.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what else, Char? What else is there that the listeners need to know about this? If they in truth want to buy their own copy?
Well, what I would say is if anything that I just went through entices you, sounds interesting, I would definitely go for it. Cough up $30 and get yourself one of the script books. Go for your favorite episode, whichever one that might be, and give it a read because it might unlock some things that you maybe didn't know before, or you can just see how Joe, as the writer, put this together in story format. And then you can make the connection between the words and then the visualization, that we all see.
I might have to find And to Rock Right Out, No Hiding Place. I'd love to see like how they...
Oh, the montage.
Yep.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. That's the next one I've got to get because I need to know how he did that.
Yeah, I just want to see like where he was in terms of setting up Rifa's demise, and the whole kind of the overlaying of the gospel song on top of Rifa trying to escape and then he got murdered. I mean, it was such a great orchestrated scene. And I wanted to see, if he just had notes or if he had the whole thing. Like I wanted this to happen while this lyric was happening, and Rifa turns around and,
I think for a breakdown like that, assuming that he didn't make any great changes, and I doubt he did, it's going to be orchestrated step by step.
Yeah.
Going back from, Rifa is stumbling around, cut to the church, cut to the Narns beating the crap out of Rifa, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I always wanted to know if Joe named that episode for the song or vice versa.
Once again, get to Twitter. We got questions.
All right. We have many questions.
Many questions. Can we talk?
That was a great summary, Shar, and you really, poured through the notes. I love the old school note taking, the stickies, all that kind of stuff. Is
Cool,
that how you
cool.
was that how you were as a student?
I'd love to think that I was all the time, but nah, this I mean, as far as writing notes, my handwriting is incredibly sloppy. That's on point.
Ah,
But yeah, I love making outlines. I really do. Just point by point, give it to me. Yeah,
I-
that's on brand. Yeah.
all right, all right.
Yeah.
Well, we are right on time.
We're
Yeah,
hit an hour. Wow. Okay,
yeah.
I'm glad that I did do the amount of notes that I did. But I'm glad I didn't do them in such great detail that we have to either cut it short or do this in a part 2 because we've really hit like the target
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah. So if you would like to get your own copy and find the copy and the episodes that are meaningful to you, again, the link in the show notes is there.
Amazon.
Amazon, and it's the US Amazon page. I don't know how it is with other pages, but I know Joe had a problem with getting everything onto one hosted page, but that seemed to have been cleared up because everything is there on that link.
Yeah.
And if you want to write into us, you can always Gmail us at the Zocalo Market. You can always Gmail us at not the Zocalo Marketplace,
No,
Zocalo
that's not it.
Marketplace at gmail.com. You can find us obviously here on YouTube. Make sure that you like and you share and you subscribe and you hit the bell icon so you get your new
Please.
content and all that kind of stuff. Please share with new listeners or friends that you might like, think that might like the show. And I am very grateful that a lot of the Mission Log listeners that know from my interview podcast that I'm a big fan of Babylon 5. So I'm glad that a lot of them are coming over to our show because I think that they want to be part of the conversation too as Babylon 5 fans. I think that's fantastic. And I thank
Totally.
everyone that has come from there to here. You can also find us on Twitter at Zocalo
Yes.
Livecast. And then we are going to be working on our Reddit content a little bit more.
Yeah, we got to
so-
get more of a party going on there. It's been too quiet.
Terry Lynn says JMS says the title comes from the song. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if he heard that on the radio, like gospel radio, and said, "Hey, that would make a great song for a show."
It wouldn't surprise me if he maybe heard it when he was involved in the cult.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense, right? I could see them all in that little coffee shop or whatever it was and singing. Yeah.
Could you imagine if he just heard that and he was like, "That would make a great story sometime." I went to the rock to hide my face, and the rock cried out, "No hiding place."
I mean,
no hiding place
dang,
down here.
right?
I'm gonna tuck that away for later.
Wouldn't surprise me in the least. He certainly did that plenty of other times.
I'm gonna have to check that one script out because I love, that's my favorite.
Please do. And let me know so that I end up buying it too.
We're going to sign off with Terry Lynn being 100% right about JMS is very knowledgeable about everything.
That's why he's the great maker.
And that's why he's a great writer.
That too.
And
that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here. So it's all coming full circle.
It really has. We have now boiled it down to the meaning of everything.
So thanks everybody for coming in and watching us this evening. Thank you for your time. And until the next Zocalo, I've been Norm. She's been Shar. Be seeing you.
Bye.